Very warm welcome to the program, the Mid-Morning Pack, right here on MBCI TV. And we are hoping that you are keeping well, our dear viewer. And thank you so much for finding time to be with us. This is the second day after the swearing in of President Dr. William Samoei Ruto, together with his deputy, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. And right now we are in the new government. And today in the Mid-Morning Pack, we just want to look at what happened yesterday, even as we focus on the reign of William Samoei Ruto as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you so much. You're joining us, and you can also contribute in today's show. The question that we are asking you today is, what is your opinion as the new government takes over? What is your opinion as the new government takes over? You can give us your views, you can give us your sentiments, you can share with us your feelings on our SMS short code, that is 23814. 23814, and also on our WhatsApp platform is 0721 105 105, 0721 105 105, and you can also catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. And we'll be glad to sample some of your opinions even as we continue with our show today. And today I'm being joined by Engineer Victor Ngatia, who is a governance expert and also a political analyst. Karibu sana, Engineer Victor Ngatia. Good to see you today.
Same here. Asante sana.
Yes.
Nashukuru kwa show. And let me say to the viewers,
yes,
everybody, let's have this discussion.
Thank you so much, and we are glad to have you today. Maybe just as we introduce, I know there are so many things that we're going to talk about, but what is it that stood out for you during yesterday's inauguration, Engineer?
First of all, is a number of presidents that we received.
Yes.
That shows a lot of support. Secondly, is how smooth the organization was.
Wow.
I mean, it flowed very well from beginning to the end. I like the color. I mean, it came out very strongly that Kenya is at peace with itself.
Okay.
We have moved on. I mean, I did not see any fracas. I did not see anything that was alarming. I loved the fact that the transition went on smoothly. I mean, I loved the body language between
and if I could just speak even your first point, you're talking about so many presidents.
Yes.
I think there were around 20.
Yes.
Yes.
And over and above that, we still had even the president of the African Union.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, we had Zimbabwe, I mean, Mnangagwa coming all the way. I mean, he's never appeared in Kenya.
And what has been the relationship between Kenya and some of these countries, and what does it signify such a big number out of this head of state?
I mean, big number shows that they agree with the Kenyan decision. Okay. I mean, if Kenyans decided, it's His Excellency Dr. Samoei Ruto. I mean, they're all in agreement, and that shows a lot of solidarity. If you listened to what Madam Suluhu, Her Excellency, Tanzanian President, talking, I mean, she was very much, happy about the fact that Kenya has even given, an example to the world, that East Africa is actually also leading in this transition, peaceful transition. I mean, it's a show of support, and I believe, yes, that time has come that the country Kenya is ready for takeoff. This could not have been.
So for some of them, it was also a platform for benchmarking,
yes,
to be able to ask questions.
If you listened and if you looked at a number of presidents, everything, or even the parade was going on, a lot of them were writing notes. You would wonder, what are they jotting? What are they writing?
Sure.
What is that they're capturing? I mean, the military showed a wonderful presentation. I mean, the parade was perfect. I loved how Uhuru came and went through it. I loved the fact that it showed perfection in comparison with a number of countries in East Africa. I mean, the show was perfect. I mean, it was interesting to watch. I hope everybody watched, and if you did, you can agree with me that yes, we stood out as a country.
And there's something else that you've talked about, Engineer, about the smooth transition. And there had been some tension because of what is in the public domain about the cold relationship that was in between the current President, William Ruto, and the retired President, Uhuru Kenyatta. But the day before yesterday, we'd seen former President Uhuru Kenyatta welcoming President William Ruto to State House.
Yes.
Maybe that had really a contribution in even maybe easing the tension that was there?
Well, I think there's a lot of what people perceive, you know, and I don't think authoritatively we can say there was any animosity between the two.
It was just a difference of opinions.
well, we can say that, but remember, this is politics.
Yes.
And there's, at times, there are a lot of things hidden in between what people speak with all intentions of the end. So if all of them had the eye, you know, on the ball, and we all got lost in between here on what is between the eye and the ball, you know, all of us were lost in there. And we kept on saying there was this animosity between the president and even some utterances that were done here and there. And we've had these gimmicks all over when politics is being done. Our friend, Mr. Atwoli, is perfect, is a perfect example. So we speak and we create this perception. And many of us are those who follow what politicians say, not with any respect to any authority, but just for the sake of talking, to marshal the masses and to move, you know, and to marshal emotions, you know. So that's where I think we were lost at, and a lot of people thought there was tension. But if you looked at what you've just alluded to, you know, the State House, it's called orientation at the State House. I mean, it looked very cordial. I mean, in fact, somebody, Bobo Wino said, President Uhuru Asante only took on, you know, because it was really expected that there would be such a difficult, you know, orientation and with a lot of anger.
But you see also, Engineer, maybe something else that could have contributed maybe to what some people maybe could say that would have really contributed to being or to the tension that maybe would have been seen or would have maybe been there maybe in some people, is because of maybe even the words of the former president himself, whereby he said that he doesn't have any problem or would not have any problem. He would actually give the baton smiling, but
yes, President,
you'd still consider the former president.
Agreed. Those, as I said, those are sentiments, and they are said you may not understand politics as much as, you see, it's a game of chess. When you're playing without any anticipation of what I'm going, of my moves.
Okay.
The moment you can anticipate my moves, then you checkmate me, because you can tell I'm going to move in a particular direction. And I don't want us to lean so much on what the president had said. As I said, those are gimmicks, and they are meant to marshal people to a particular direction. And in this case, I think they did very well. Because if they didn't, then why was it peaceful yesterday? Why was it all cordial? I mean, I did not expect the President Uhuru to be all laughing and all smiling, because listen, it's a job he's done for 10 years. That's the best he's known for the last 10 years. So leaving office, you expect him to be a little sad, you know. But in general, he was very happy handing over, you know, the whatever the power, you know. Even when the sword came, I thought everybody expected that the sword will not be passed, you know. But he gave the sword, you know, smiling, you know.
Smiling, very cheerful.
Very cheerful, you know. And
this is something that he had promised, that what really mattered to him is the aspect of ensuring that there is a peaceful transition. What is the place of peace, even as you talk
peaceful
about this?
Transition. So what is this he was bound to do to ensure there was? Because I think he passed 180%.
Wow.
Because we had a peaceful transition. Nobody's complaining. But then again, we must agree that some of these things really look godly, because it's a mystery that we are not very sure of. Remember, in the past, anytime we had a transition, there was always war. You know, people were fighting, chaos, you know. This time round, as much as people anticipated a lot of chaos, there was none. None reported. I don't remember any report of any chaos. Even on the 9th night, because that's when it starts, we were very peaceful, and everybody was like waiting for the results. The results came out, even when the opposition or the side that lost, which is where I was as Azimio, felt like they've won and they wanted to counter, it was only Azimio team in the office or headquarters that was actually causing and showing that they're actually not agreeing with the decision. But the people themselves on the ground were very peaceful. Whatever gimmicks Uhuru could have used, we may not understand. But at the end of the day, he achieved the objective. Whether he said he will not hand over power to a thief, he said he will not hand over, he will hand over smiling, but he knows his president remains, you know, as far as I'm concerned, those could be gimmicks to ensure a peaceful transition, which I think he passed with flying colors.
And there's something that you've actually even pointed out, and this is something that we also saw across the country in Guinea. We would see Kenyans being interviewed, and Kenyans across our 47 counties, you'd find them, most of them were ready to welcome the government and the leadership and the regime, the reign of William Samoei Ruto, regardless of maybe how they voted, even those maybe who are of the side of the Azimio, when it was declared that it was William Ruto who had won the election, you would find most of them saying that we are ready to work with this.
I think Kenya, we've come a long way. I mean, we've come from clashes that Kenyans suffered, you know, year on, you know. And during Moi's era, we had post-election violence. Kibaki's time we still had. Uhuru's time, I think, it was only the very beginning. Then after that, it really subsided.
Exactly.
After TNA, Jubilee came, I mean, things went down. But naturally, I think Kenyans have seen it all. And I think Kenyans, personally, I believe Kenyans were ready for any outcome. If, for example, Raila Amolo Odinga was announced or declared the president, I think Kenya will still be peaceful.
Sure.
I think Kenya has grown, and we know the detriments of violence, you know. So nobody would dare the violent side.
And this was all evident even in the event yesterday. There were those maybe who thought that maybe because of the what we could the perception of the differences between the former president Kenyatta and President Ruto, some of them thought that maybe we would see maybe some booing, but at least we saw a lot of decorum. Yes.
The decorum. I think I'll give this to His Excellency the President. I think he's an authoritarian. I think he's a man who believes in discipline. I think he's a man who believes in order. And I think he's a man who believes in results. I mean, for example, we saw over the campaign period when, for example, Azimio team went to the areas that are perceived to be pro-UDA, for example, Uasin Gishu, Kericho, Bomet and stuff. We saw the numbers that came to meet Baba were huge. And if anything, I think I remember Junet at some point saying, he meant you know, not to say that they have lost, but to actually indicate that they have taken over or they have won, you know. And this, strictly, I give it to His Excellency the President. Why? Because his team understood exactly his vision and how to go about it. They did not in any way embarrass him whenever they had visitors in their strongholds. Even yesterday, I did not expect it. And that's why you can tell that many of us expected booing of the president. Many of us expected people to jeer. But nothing of the sort happened. If anything, there was calm. So, as I said, I think the president is an authoritarian. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's a guy who's looking for peace. From the look of it, he wants peace, and he wants to ensure the country moves, and he makes a better mark than his predecessors.
Wow.
And I give it to him for sure. I think Kenya is bound for takeoff. Listening to what he gave yesterday, and in fact, I think I should just take this opportunity.
You think this is one of the most critical legacies that you remember him for?
And Bonamangicho, I think allow me to just congratulate His Excellency. I've not, I should have started with that, to just say, you know, congratulations, Your Excellency, the President, Dr. Samoei William Ruto. You have done great. You have stood out over years, and you have come out strongly stating exactly what you wanted for this country. And yes, it is evident that you know what you want for this country and where you want to take it. Mine is to wish you well, all the best as you deliver I ask that you be protected, because I think everything that we are seeing in this country is godly. On the same breath, I think I would also want to commend Her Excellency the Governor of Nakuru, Susan Kehika Mburu. I mean, she has always shown her vigor and her strength in mobilization and in her campaigns. And it's an honor to actually know that, yes, you have shown the way, and the ladies are, and many of us are energized that you have said it, that you are going for governor, and you made it. The gap that you gave was huge, meaning you had done a very good, or your assignment well. I wish you well, congratulations, lead as well. Whatever support you all need from us, we will give support, because the country has moved on and we have accepted the results. And let's build Kenya. We are all Kenyans, we want the best for this country, and we will support any time called for. And most of it is to say that we are ready to offer our services to this country.
Thank you so much. It's very appealing to congratulate the leaders, and it's a good gesture. Yeah, sure. That as a country we really need to pull. Yeah. I mean,
President Ruto has shown the way.
Yeah.
And from the point we were just discussing about having had a peaceful transition yesterday, and the world was watching, and it was peaceful. Let me not cheat you. Kenya is now different. And it all started in 2017 when Maraga gave the declaration of a repeat election. And that in itself was shocking. It shocked even the United States of America.
Yeah, because
they couldn't believe
it is something that I think in Africa they said it is the first time.
It's the first in the world, actually. I think I would pass it. It's in the world. And remember, it's being nullified, while the government that was is the one that has been declared, and Justice Maraga says no, it was not. The process was
not okay.
It's not okay.
You have to go back.
so that marked the beginning of Kenya's takeoff. Yeah. And even I really expected a lot of. I expected the current Supreme Court to come out also very strong, and for sure it did, because even on the judgment that it gave, many of us would have thought otherwise. But you see, again, it is their jurisdiction to decide for us, because this side had lawyers, senior counsel. This other side had senior counsels, but they all fought and could not agree on a simple decision of who won the election. But the Supreme did their job. Yeah. They actually gave and asked for evidence. Give us. And I remember in some instance they asked, can you guide us on this one? What do you think we should do? Can you give us more information on this issue? When you said this, could you quote the Constitution? I mean, the Supreme Court, again, made another mark.
Sure. And I think engineer will also actually be coming even to, because some of the things that we also discuss in this particular show is about what the president already said.
Yes.
And we'll try to interrogate even the very first speech, the inauguration speech by the president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. But even as we say, engineer, that the country needs to move on, we need to come together as a country, regardless of how we voted. We know it was a hotly contested election, because we're talking about 7.1 and 6.9, a difference of around 200,000 votes. What do you think the absence of the top Azimio leadership in that inauguration, do you think maybe it would affect the kind of harmony, the kind of unity that we are actually appealing to Kenyans, or we are looking forward to have? Because we didn't see Raila Odinga, the running mate, Martha Karua. Is it like they are still harboring maybe ill feelings against the government?
I think it's obvious.
And how should this go?
There's nothing as difficult as accepting defeat, and that's human nature. You would not just quickly accept defeat. More so if you
it's a process.
More so if you think you won. But again, we must get to a point of realizing that, you know what, you could have won, but where we are today, there is no recourse now. The Constitution is such that if the Supreme Court declares, it's final.
It's final.
We can't go to ICC.
East African Court.
We can't. I mean, the East African court could only say
just
something.
to give us an opinion.
They'll just give us an opinion. And I think Honorable Martha Karua was very right. She said
Yes.
she would actually seek the East African court to actually give an opinion on whether the ruling was free and fair. But, and there was justice in it. But at the end of the day, we have moved. For the absence that we saw yesterday, I think indirectly it has a serious effect on the harmony and the peace that we are all claiming. But then again, it all goes back to the president. If at all he delivers, if at all he shows inclusion, if at all he, brings round the economy of this country, if at all he creates employment, if at all the people from these perceived areas or strongholds of the opposition now are considered and are taken care of, then people will heal. But in the event, by default, or I don't know by what mistake happens, and we show the balkanization and the segregation of particular regions in this dispensation of 5 years, then there will be chaos. And I strongly believe we have come a long way, and I think the president really understands. Because if you look at what he started with yesterday, the punchline was strong, He talked about the economy. He talked about relocating and bringing back, taking back the clearance to Mombasa. I mean, it has a negative effect. As a Nakuru person, I wouldn't agree with it because it denies my people from Nakuru County an opportunity to work because it has created job opportunities in Naivasha. Now it goes back. But he has a bigger picture than we do because he's looking at the county, the 47 counties, not just Nakuru County. So if he takes it back to Mombasa, what are the implications on this other side? And how does he counter? Then on the same breath, he says he's considering Naivasha as an industrial hub. So there is another plan to recreate the employment that was in Naivasha. So it's a balance. So I would feel bad in the event you take it away and leave it, leave me, to suffer. But if you are really thinking of something else that you're bringing on board for me, then I would be actually patient to wait for it. So in a nutshell, I think it is unfortunate that Honorable Raila Odinga and Honorable Martha Karua gave a no-show yesterday. Although I know Honorable Raila had given his statement on the reason why he's not available. I think he's out of the country. We would have loved to see him present because he's actually stated and said.
So you think if they would have been present, it would have really helped? It would have really improved and
it would have marshaled the people from his strongholds to actually believe, you know what, this government could bring, some goodies for us. But even in his absence, as I said, the onus is now on the president and the government of today. That if they did their job right, if Kenyans feel taken care of, if the judiciary dispenses justice to people, and people don't feel that the justice is delayed, then again, people would feel, then this is the Kenya we wanted to be in, because I'm sure, even as Honorable Raila would put it, he wants a better Kenya. I'm sure he's not even exited the political scene. He wants a better Kenya. So what else will he do to bring out the better Kenya that we are looking at?
So the hardest job is for the president to actually now embrace and to actually even show the 6.9 who did not vote for him that indeed, as I said it, as I promised it, I'm the president for the entire country.
Yes, and he said that. And he said that. And remember again, him being the president, and he's actually embracing everybody else, he is very categorical on the fact that he wants to stick to the rule of law, because one of the failures of this country is that we have refused to, to observe the rule of law. People want shortcuts. People want to do things not necessarily, observing the law. Him is categorical. Even on the issue of the opposition taking their place, he was asked by, I think, some reporter, are you going to give a handshake to the opposition? He said no. I mean, honestly, the Constitution puts it very clear. There is a position for the opposition. Let us engage on that line. But if we are going again to subvert and actually not observe the law, then
And,
we are going to change.
and engineer, because this is also very crucial, because opposition does not necessarily mean enmity.
Yes.
But
Checks
maybe what
and balances.
Kenyans are looking for, and maybe even what maybe organizations, some of these organizations that are very critical as far as maybe governance is concerned, maybe are we looking forward to a place and maybe even to a time when we'll be able to see the president and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga maybe even just being together to actually even just help Kenyans to be able to see, after all, the two leaders can also relate to each other?
Knowing Honorable Raila and where he's come from Moi's time, through Kibaki's, through Uhuru's time, I can guarantee, almost guarantee, that yes, they will have a cup of tea. You know why? I think Honorable Raila is a statesman.
Yes.
And he has shown this over time. He has tried all means possible. And there's nothing as good as compromise and understanding that it is not you who can be correct. It's not only you who can be correct. I mean, others can be correct too. And they also confirm that, like President Moi said, the country is more important.
Sure.
Than us.
Than us. Yes,
the late Saitoti also said that there comes a time when the country is more important than an individual.
Right.
So Honorable Raila understands that very well. And many a times he seems to do things that people don't agree with because people are hardliners. Generally, human beings by nature are hardliners. So would take a stand and wouldn't want to compromise. So Raila looks at the bigger picture and he ends up just compromising on behalf of the people. See, like if you remember in 2017, the handshake came in and there were a number of issues that were actually stopping the economy from growing because they had taken a hard line, and they were saying, don't buy people should not buy what? The Daily Nation. I think people should not use Bitcoin, or people should not use Safaricom. And you see, this is the economy you're talking about. And when talking about 50% of the economy, of the population not utilizing these goods, you're basically killing the economy, And having understood that, he actually went for handshake. We can look at the other side of the negative side of the handshake.
And this is very important, even as you talk about that, because there are those who really think that it really helped the government to move on with the development projects. That when we have maybe a particular group or when you have maybe a particular side not maybe supporting or maybe bringing issues every time and then, it becomes very, very difficult. Maybe that is why maybe even the former president thought it was good, it was wise to bring on board, or actually to have the issue of handshake. Now, for President William Ruto, who has categorically said that he would not go for handshake, but would want the opposition to take its rightful side. How do you think this should actually be balanced?
I think it will be balanced. And if you look from that time of the 2017, I think the situation was a bit different from today's. And I think the situation of 2017 has helped improve today's situation. Because then there was animosity. And it was in broad daylight, you could see it and you could feel, even just traveling. People would not traverse the country as free. Yeah. And how do you deal with that as the president? And by then, the president was Uhuru Kenyatta. How do you deal with that aspect of people cannot traverse the country simply because this particular people believe that they should not access these particular issues because they are rebelling against this governance? How do you deal with that? I mean, in whatever way, I think Uhuru in his wisdom thought it very well, and he did it very well. He contained the people. He managed to bring in the relationship between the Kikuyus and the Luo community, because more so, those were the two communities that were really seen as if they were fighting, because Baba is Luo and Uhuru is Kikuyu. And somehow, I think it played well. The country today is at peace. There is no animosity. Today, you cannot tell me that the Luos would have an issue with the Kikuyus. You still can't tell me that the Kalenjins would have an issue with the Kikuyus or the Kikuyus would have an issue with the Kalenjins. We have gotten to a point, who is fighting who? So the peace is there. Today's situation is not really a hardliner. I think it's strictly sticking with the rule of law and stating that the Constitution states there is an opposition. And they have their rightful place in the Constitution. and their business is to check on government. I mean, otherwise there will be no checks and balances, because that was the other side I wanted to just look at. There is a good side of the handshake, but also there is also the negative side of the handshake, because we lose the checks and balances here and there, and a number of things went wrong. And what I'm liking in today's
Engineer, let me just cut you on that particular note, but kindly don't lose your chain of thought. When you come back, we'll be picking up from where we've left. We just want to take a short break at this particular point. Remember, this is the mid-morning.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
What is the difference between a hotel and a motel?
Tuseme motel ile kubwa ile iko na chai kama si maziwa ya ng'ombe itumikaji huko.
Maziwa gani yanatumika huko?
Maziwa hii tikitiki nzito zito.
Sasa hiyo ndio
motel.
Now tell me why I shouldn't disown you.
Ng'ombe uzaa nini?
Ng'ombe haizai bana, nini mbaya na wewe?
Ng'ombe inafanya nini?
Haizai bana.
Haizai kabisa?
Haizai.
Na ng'ombe inafanya nini?
Inatega mayai. Inatega mayai.
Hey! Kwa mwaka ng'ombe inataga mayai mangapi?
Mara 3.
Mara 3.
Na mara 3 ya.
Mwezi gani na mwezi gani na mwezi gani?
Mwezi wa 3 na mwezi wa 6 na mwezi wa 9.
Taja aina 5 ya matunda.
I would like to see it.
Cabbage.
What?
Cabbage.
Hey!
Sukuma.
Hey! Sule.
Kunde. Sageti na managu.
A long journey begins with one step, and only the bold and the strong-spirited will jump hurdles of life to reach their destination. Some dreams are bigger than us, cut for them that pursue relentlessly. When the horizon seems like an impossibility, with the right touch and guidance, we will eventually get there. The journey made easier, and dreams within your reach. We are committed to empower you realize your dream step by step with you. Enroll today. Join the medical profession and begin to live the dream. Outspan Medical College, providing holistic healthcare solutions.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back to the program, The Mid-Morning Pack, our dear viewer, and You're joining us right here on MBCI TV. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us. The second day after the swearing in of President Dr. William Samoei Ruto, together with his deputy, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. We're just trying to look at some of the key issues that happened, even as we look forward to this particular regime of William Ruto, and trying to see how things will be. And on studio, I'm being joined by Engineer Victor Ngati, a public governance expert and also a political analyst. And the question that we are asking you today is, what is your opinion as the new government takes over? What is your opinion as the new government takes over? And you can give us your views, you can give us your ideas on 23814, that is the SMS short code platform, and also on WhatsApp 0721 105 105. You can also catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. And we'll be glad to sample some of your opinions even as we continue with this particular show. I guess, Engineer, you're not lost your line of thought on what you're talking about. But even as you pick up from that, the issue that was also of concern, Engineer, is that because even as we speak, the Azimio side, the top leadership, what does it mean when maybe they've still not yet maybe accepted? Of course, they say that they accepted the decision of the Supreme Court, yes, but not agreeing with it. Yes. But now, what does it mean when maybe they don't think that this government is legitimate? And what does it do to its supporters, even as we say the country should move on and we really need to see the unity and the cohesion that is supposed to be there?
You know, just before we went on to that break, I'd indicated something to do with the rule of law. And why you hear our leaders talk about, you know, not agreeing. You see, first of all, they accept the ruling by the Supreme Court, because that is the law. The Supreme Court should give within 7 days their ruling, which they did. I am glad that Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Honorable Martha Karua came out and accepted the judgment. Over and above that, they're free, like anybody else would do, not agree with the ruling. Okay. If the system offered another opportunity to appeal or reappeal, they would have done that. But the rule of law, due to a number of reasons, there was some wisdom when the Constitution was being drafted, sure, that should be the end. That should because be the end. There should be, yes, there should be some sense or some reason of continuity now. Right. You know, because we would fight to no end. We would appeal again, appeal. Finally, if the other side loses, they will appeal again, yes, and the whole country would be held at ransom for 5 years. Yes, yes. We are still appealing and appealing. Who's ruling at that time? You know, so they are free not to agree, and anybody else is free not to agree with the judgment. But the country must move on, and I think we must get to that point of realizing that, you know, we must move on now. What next? Now, if your leadership is contained in the opposition, then you have a responsibility to deliver, such that if you do not deliver on your responsibility, you will be failing the country. For me, I think it's quick for them to take over their rightful offices at the moment, because the country is moving on. Okay. The government is being formed. The MPs have been sworn in. Tomorrow we see the MCAs being sworn in. The government is formed. So we cannot now again remain behind and cry while everything else is moving on. We must take our rightful position now and agree we're in the opposition. In fact, even former President Uhuru Kenyatta stated, we are in the opposition. It's a high time we acknowledge that we are, and we take our position. Exactly. If they continue not acknowledging, what basis will they be putting on the ground or on the table that they're disagreeing, or they're not accepting, or they want to overturn the presidency of His Excellency the President William Ruto? Yeah. There is no basis again, you know. So we must move on. Tanzania, for example, Tanzania has a similar system that once it has been declared by Chebukati
Chebukati
of Tanzania,
yes.
that it is this particular person who's the president. It is final.
It is final.
You know, and that's it. So you can do whatever you want to do, but the declaration is final. So we move to the next. And I think Kenya democratically has gone through the channels of institutions, or we've gone through the vote. After the vote, we went to the judiciary, and the final verdict has been given. It's time to move on. So I'm sure with time they will actually get into their, to their self. At the moment, there's a lot of anguish, or there's anger. You could have.
But with time,
we
need to give them time.
And again, remember, if the president delivers, because I strongly believe he will deliver,
sure.
and I think the timing was godly. He has started on a very strong foot and on a very strong note on what he wants to do for this country. And I think we only need to support the president and let him deliver at the moment. Tomorrow will sort itself. But for today, we have a president.
Yeah, and even one other leader that actually even also congratulated the president from Azimio is Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
He also said that we congratulate him. We may not maybe have agreed with the Supreme Court verdict, but we congratulate him. We need to move on and wait for 2027. Sure. That's very, very nice. Okay. Well, Engineer, now we want to look at, I really want to get some of your opinions. And when you look at William Samoei Ruto, the man, someone that we've been told was a chicken seller, went to be an MP at an early age, I think of early 30s. Yes. Eldoret, by then it was Eldoret North constituency. At one particular point, was also with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga during the 2007 election. Also went to, what do you think the way he's been, and from that youthful age up to now that he is a president? What do you think makes him stand out?
I think one thing we can agree with this gentleman. He's sober. And he plans. In this life you're taught, if you don't plan, you're simply planning to fail. From the just concluded elections, it is evident that he had planned well how his campaigns would go and how they will end. We saw even at the swearing in, immediately after swearing in, they already had a next, the plan of what happens next, And if you look at how they carried out their campaigns, if you look at how the issues they raised, from a very intellectual point, at times you'd actually think they're being, they call what? They're being vexful, if I can use such a word. They want to vex and they want to annoy somebody, because they would actually use give some utterances that would really annoy some intellectuals. But then again, I think they had a very good research on what issues would hit the right points. I remember they really used Uhuru Kenyatta's name. In every campaign they went to, they knew how to hit hard. They would stick on it, ride on it, hammer it again and again and again. And a lot of people would, on the other side, would be angry. But what it did on the other side is that it marshaled many people who actually resonated on those issues and felt like it's the former president who was doing this to them. And, because the more you say it, the more they believe in it.
Okay.
And as a strategy, I think they executed well. And from his humble beginnings, I remember even, I think I was very young, but I remember there was some sentiments that the late President Moi asked, who is this man? Who's this father? Because then it actually shows that this guy was coming from a point of, glory.
Yes.
You just come out of campus, you just get into politics, you just get into a campaign mode, and you win again, and you go and you challenge. He's been challenging the status quo from the word go.
And that aspect, that very, very part, because that is something maybe to so many people was not conceivable.
Yes.
Maybe most people would not have thought, because maybe there was that perception, there was that belief that maybe for you to get to some point, for you to get to some level in leadership, you've got to be known, you've got to be from somewhere, maybe from some family. What does it say to Kenyans? What does it say to an ordinary Kenyan?
I was actually heading to actually state that this is godly, because really, and I think we would get many other examples from the Bible of people who actually, if you are godly, but you will go through many things and you just triumph. You know, even all through this gentleman has been triumphing, and imagine winning in every other step that it takes. So from that level, a humble beginning, difficult schooling, he still emerged and went to campus. Then even after he got the leadership of being an MP, he still soldiered on to go to the high echelons of power. He was rubbing shoulders with the who of who is who in this country. A few people who get that opportunity to rub shoulders with such people, because again, it will be who are you from? I mean, where are you from, and who are you? Who's your father? What schools did you go to? I remember there was a time of I went to a group of schools. What school did you go to? If you are not from those level of engagement, then again you don't make it into leadership. And you can tell from a while ago there were particular people who were getting into leadership. So that if my father was a very senior leader in the country, then most likely as a son I would get to the same level.
Right.
So this gentleman comes from nowhere. His father was not in those high-ranking positions, but he still becomes an MP. You would ask yourself, who are you? Then again after that, he still makes it to a minister. He's still not from a strong background, So I think indirectly I see connection to it being godly. We may not explain, because let me not cheat you. This gentleman has had a campaign.
You're talking about the supernatural.
Yes, it's in another realm, and we cannot understand it, because really, if you look at the difficulties this guy has gone through through his campaigns, really, I mean, you can't imagine he is the president today. He's had a very difficult time. How do you explain that he went through? I mean, we had this term. It's called the deep state. He's the first person who came out and said, "Hakuna kitu kama deep state." Did you believe that it doesn't exist? Up to the election
so many
day,
Kenyans actually believed it.
Up to the election day, people still believed there is deep state that's going to win it for Baba.
Yeah, most people believe that the deep state, the system, are there.
Yes, to ensure that is done. And again, how would he win against?
So could it be true?
President?
Could it be true that surely or truly there is nothing like deep state?
I think there is deep
system.
I think there is deep state.
How you overcame it?
It's godly. I mean, I'm just saying there is deep state. There is, because a number of things that they would do and will establish a lot of things that you wouldn't know. Today, the same deep state is feeding him with information that he's using to make decisions. Otherwise, if there's no deep state, then you don't understand. What is deep state? Deep state is the police. We have the DCI. We have the people who run this country. I mean, economically. I mean, it's part of what they would want to achieve. I mean, they actually indicate where they want to get the investment in what direction. So this is the deep state. So if they're actually investing on this particular area, then as a president, you'd want to understand why that area, and you'd have that information beforehand, and you'd understand why the investment is going that direction. That's deep state. So this information, it's there. So it is feeding him with the right information before everybody else gets to know what's going on. So it's there. But how he overcame it, I can't explain.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. At times, some of these things are godly, and we cannot even fight it. Human being and human nature is judgmental. You judge before, excuse me, who are you? And what do you do?
What do you do?
It's not necessarily that I want to appreciate where you work. I want to judge you. And that's human nature. We want to judge. So we judge before we make a decision. Okay. So many Kenyans judged His Excellency before supporting him. And having fallen into the same category, I judged him from the many things that were said by Kenyans about him. So you lost the picture or the plot, because simply, this is godly. Who are you to judge?
Yeah.
Who are you to judge? So we judged wrongly, and we actually went on the wrong side because we judged wrongly. That was not our responsibility. I still believe it was godly. We cannot explain how he is the president today. I think everything was in his favor, and it was just godly.
It was just godly. And because so many people, and I actually even saw there was one very, I could say, maybe comical or interesting tweet that he had put, that now that the one who did not have shoes during his school days is a president. is now the president.
Clement.
Yeah. So many people are in the situation, maybe where the current president was maybe several years ago.
Years back.
How do you think, therefore, that his leadership will do? How should his leadership actually be to actually even offer some of the inspiration, some of the encouragement?
The first inspiration is people didn't see the wheelbarrow as an inspiration. And I think many are people who fought it simply because, as a symbol, it symbolized odd jobs. But then again, I think this gentleman, with due respect, he has a background that has such sufferings. I had somebody yesterday state that at some point this guy was living in Kawangware, so he has actually gone through these difficult times. Somebody said, Clement said that at some point they were going to school barefoot, and they didn't even know what they would eat for supper, or they would even sleep hungry. So he's a gentleman who knows what suffering is and poverty. And but then again, this should not be taken lightly, and everybody believes that simply because I'm going to school barefoot or I'm sleeping hungry, then I'll become the president in the next 10, 15 years. I think we should not fail to acknowledge that there is a lot of effort. And effort in the sense that this guy, His Excellency knew exactly what he wanted for his life. And he went for it. He is a go-getter. I mean, he was good in what he said. He communicated well. He could articulate issues and what he wants for his people, and people could see him among many. Why he's better than even those.
So for anyone who is looking up to him, for anyone who is saying, I'm in this particular situation where the current president, where my president is, where my president was, are we talking about qualities of hard work? Are you talking about resilience?
Definitely. I mean, let's not. I would not want people to just look at the fact that they're barefoot today. I think I want them to look at his life in full, so that you have a full picture of what it takes. Yes, you went through hardship. You are going to school barefoot, but remember, you must command your communication.
Okay.
Because if you can't communicate, then of course I will not know what you want. You must command your communication. What it takes is education. Then you must be educated.
You must be educated.
I mean, these are things this president of ours went through. So if you don't do that, then you have a problem. Remember, he's a doctor. I mean, we've not had a president who's a doctor in this country. Kibaki was not a doctor. Yeah. At the end of the day, he's a doctor, meaning he values education.
Okay.
So we cannot underrate the power of education in his journey. Over and above that, he as an individual, he's bold and he's brave and he goes for anything. Nothing stops him. If the deep state never stopped him, then that is a lesson.
Yes.
Then you should not be stopped by anything. You should go for whatever you want to go. And I think it's very encouraging even on my side, because even me, I've tried politics, and I believe I still have a position somewhere in this country.
In 2020 you didn't
I don't know where. I didn't vie, and it was very intentional.
Yeah, it was intentional.
I still think there's more to be done, and from what he's gone through, I can pick a number of areas that maybe I've not been very serious with. And at times you think it doesn't matter, but now learning from the best, these are areas that you will need to touch if you're serious about leadership.
Wow, that's great. Now let's look at some of the key points that came out very, very strongly during the inauguration speech yesterday. Remember, you're still looking, or you're still joining us on the mid-morning pack right here on MBCI TV. We are also having engineer Victor Ngatia, political analyst and also a governance expert, trying to help us see what are some of the things that came out strongly yesterday. You can give us your opinions on 23814 and also on 0721 105 105. You're also on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on MBCI TV official, that is on our YouTube page. And Engineer Ngatia, when we look at some of the things that the president said yesterday, number one, the swearing in of judges that had not been, that is the Court of Appeal judges, and really talked about and really applauded the judiciary for the steps that it has actually taken. When you see the president saying, taking such swift action, and also applauding the judiciary. We know there had been quite a number of frictions during the reign of President Kenyatta or former President Kenyatta between the executive and the judiciary. When we see the current president now taking such actions, how are we seeing the relationship, the cooperation between these two institutions, the executive and the judiciary?
I think the last time in 2017 we started on the wrong footing because I remember there were sentiments of we shall revisit, and that in itself must have drawn a wedge between the executive and the judiciary. But from what the president has put across today, that yesterday, it actually starts on a very strong footing with them. So the relationship between the three arms of government is very easy, is very cordial. He also gave him an additional 3 billion shillings on a yearly basis on top of the budget, and this is what they've been pushing for. So when a judiciary feels as if they are accommodated by the government or the executive, then at all means they feel then it is their responsibility to execute and deliver on their expected mandate.
But somebody would argue also that there is a catch-22 situation, engineer. I don't know how you look at this, because there are those now who think that if the executive maybe tries to show that, or maybe is embracing and even maybe trying to work or maybe trying to act in a way that seems to favor the judiciary, then the judiciary also in adjudicating some of its or some of the cases would automatically be pro the government.
Not necessarily. I think the president has come out very strongly on the belief, on his belief on the independence of institutions. And even over and above that, you saw that he actually removed the police from being under the office of the president.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a gentleman who believes on that autonomy. That if you're an independent force or you're an independent police service, then you need to be independent fully.
And have your own budget.
Yes. I mean, I think he's shown by the first day in office that, you know what, I do not want to control you. At the moment you're independent, it is your responsibility to deliver your mandate without my influence. When he does the same to the judiciary, it should not be looked as if he's doing that so that to expect favors from the judiciary. He is actually trying to confirm that he believes on the independence of these institutions. And since he has shown by example, it is only upon the judiciary to confirm to the people that they're independent. It will not be His Excellency William Samoei Ruto's call.
So we can have independence of the institutions, but we could still have good working relationship. And even maybe during his reign, when maybe we see the judiciary passing some judgments that would seem not to be favorable to the executive, we would still see a situation whereby
you see, the reason we saw as if the judiciary would pass some, would make some decisions that were not favorable to the executive is because the executive at some point would want the judiciary to stand with them. But that would not be the correct position in law. So you see a conflict simply because I'm trying to get the favor from you, which is not correct. But when you stand your ground, like what Justice Maraga did, he was seen as if he was against the executive. But he wasn't. He actually stood by the law, and he actually confirmed. Had he not made that decision, today we would not be looking at any process. Today we'll be having a shambolic election. He put in order, and it's simply because he stood by the law. Today, the judiciary has no excuse to fail, because it's already gotten there. What His Excellency the President has done today, he has empowered them further, so that you can deliver this justice to the people. You would need this additional budget, which is what they have been pushing for anyway. It's not coming from the moon. They had asked for this budget and they wanted this additional budget. So they want these courts up in each and every sub-county. They want the High Court, I think, in every county. You know, all that is to empower them. And I think the President is giving a very good example. And let's not doubt every move he's making. This is what we needed from the word go. We cried that we wanted independence of these institutions. He is actually giving the independence. We should just accept and say, time has come for us to receive. Let us receive.
Let us receive.
Let us receive.
Let us receive. Wow, that's so nice. And the other thing that is also very important for us to look, and we know that the President is coming at a time when the economy has actually been a major talking point, and Kenyans have been overwhelmed. Kenyans have been overburdened by the high cost of commodities. And maybe this is one of the things that maybe most Kenyans would look at it and really expecting that the government would do something maybe, and actually even maybe the short term. When you listened to yesterday's speech, how do you think, or what do you think maybe really stood out for you in terms of trying to ensure that the basic commodities can actually go down for most of Kenyans who are actually struggling?
Personally, I wouldn't want to give false hope to Kenyans. In the short term,
Yes.
it's not going to be easy. For example, I think we're expecting, he actually stated that the time for subsidy is over. So we expect the fuel prices to go up. And if you think the subsidy is about 50 shillings per litre, so we expect fuel prices to go above 200 per litre. That's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for transport. So if you've been paying 50 shillings, then of course you expect to pay 60 shillings or 70 shillings. If you've been paying 500, you expect to pay 600 or 700. So that is the cost still going up. If subsidy is removed, we expect maize flour to shoot up again. And this is a bone of contention in Kenya. So we are not looking in the next 3, 4, 5 months for the prices to start going down. Huu ni wakati wa kukaza kamba. Kaza mshipi.
Umesema kwa miezi mitano?
In the short term, because short term is another 5, 6 months. So that's when maybe we can start seeing the fruits of some policies that will be put in place.
Okay.
I think he has a big picture and a good one and a good idea or vision for this country. But for the common Mwananchi, things will get better. Let's appreciate the infrastructure that the former president came up with, because if you go around the counties, you can actually tell that yes, the infrastructure is up. That would help in one way, because now the next government, the current government, would not overinvest again in infrastructure, because infrastructure, once it's done, most likely will have covered some good mileage. So we'll need to look at other areas of developing this country. President Yoweri alluded to some aspect of, we need to think about growing, creating job creation for our people, and how do we use our market, how do we create market for our produce, because listen, Uganda is agricultural, Tanzania is agricultural, Kenya is agricultural. So who sells to who when? Because if you're all producing maize, who sells to who this maize, So we need to look at the market.
Consuming?
Yes, who's consuming? So we must look for market for these goods. If you're talking about value addition, we must do the value addition. Then who becomes our market?
Our market, sure.
So those are things that they must start thinking. And I'm liking the fact that our president has the capacity to see these things through. And most likely, this will develop into job creation. I like what he talks about in Naivasha, the industrial park, in as much as it is an idea that has been there. Yes, if he's supporting that idea fully, then there will be some exponential growth in the industrial sector in Naivasha, meaning there'll be job creation. He talks about housing. I mean, all these things are affordable, because we know Kenyans are suffering on the issues of rent.
Right.
Now, the more the houses that we have available, then again that controls the rent and the amount of rent people pay. I mean, all these things for sure will come into play, but in the short term, as I said, Kaza Kamba. Be ready. Things will be tight.
Be ready. But even as we wait for that, because there is a high expectation. And one of the things that is very, very important, engineer, is basically even the initiative to be able to help Kenyans. And you talk about the over 6 million Kenyans youth who still cannot access job opportunities. Now, this is a government that came riding on the hustler narrative. And people are really looking at some of these majority of these youths being helped. And we are looking at the issue of even the starting up or the establishment of the Hustler Fund to help even the small enterprises. Now, we are also looking at a situation whereby we know that, and this is something that even the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, had also alluded to, that you are coming in and we are telling you Kenyans that Treasury is operating in the negative. We're also looking at a situation whereby Kenya, the issues of the debt. Now, this is a government that Kenyans are really watching. Kenyans, we know that that is the situation, that is the truth, that they're coming into a government, they're inheriting a government that has actually had a lot of problems as far as economy is concerned. But of course, we give credit to it because of what you've already talked about, the infrastructure, the roads, the electricity. Now, how do they go about fixing what maybe has already made the economy to be very, very hard, like the issue of debt, and also now coming in to help the people that they had already promised, and also looking at the timelines?
I think number one, the first thing that he talked about yesterday that was directly touching the people was agriculture. And the main reason as to why our food becomes very costly is because our cost of production is very high. And the first thing that he could quickly do is slash the price from 6,500 per bag of fertilizer to 3,500. This in itself is to avail the fertilizer from today. Is it today or I don't know, how soon was it to be available? I think from today or
next week.
Next week or something. So that fertilizer is supposed to now go into the next production of the foods that we should be eating towards December or January. Now, in the short term, there is no measures that can be put in place to reduce apart from subsidy. We have removed subsidy. So the cost will go up. So that is first step that actually touches agriculture. But I think if I was to speak to the president directly on this issue about agriculture, I think we have failed in the past. We have come from an era of cooperative societies. We have come from an era where we knew agriculture paid. We have come from an era where the coffee farmer, the tea farmer, the maize farmer were very happy when, you know, I would say gladly say my dad is a farmer and I'm going to school courtesy of farming. Sure. Today is very difficult. So if there's an area that could directly touch the common mwananchi today is agriculture. And this is not only the farmer, because the moment the farmer can produce, the moment a student or a young man has a reason to go farming, it's creating a job opportunity for him. Because then he'll be able to have proper inputs and he'll be able to produce and make an income for himself and many others who will get into agriculture. If we have more youth and more people get into agriculture, then it means we're producing good food and enough food for ourselves and in surplus for export. For example, Uganda is very good in exporting to Kenya, the maize. Tanzania is also another one that exports a number of things. We have maize, we have onions, we have lemons, we have oranges that they export to Kenya. Now, if we do not get to that level, then we are already depending on other nations to survive. And that is the biggest problem. Stomach. If somebody is hungry, it doesn't matter what you're giving him.
Sure. There's nothing else that they can do.
It doesn't work. It doesn't
That
work.
is a starting point.
Here. So first of all, agriculture, we must return to factory setting. We must be able to produce milk, and a farmer with 1 cow or 2 cows must be able to live on those 2 cows. Because before, I remember my grandmother had 2 cows, and she was very happy at the farm. She had everything she wanted just from taking milk to KCC. We must get to that point of I appreciate I have 2 cows and I have 1 acre of land and I'm comfortable and I'm taking my kids to school. You know, those are a few things that he can do quickly. Agriculture is, in fact, Kenya is known to be an agricultural country.
Sure.
Why would we lose that, what do you call it, that tag? We must be able to go back and produce well. Over and above that, there are other areas that we need to look at. We have failed thoroughly on value addition. For example, to date, I don't know what international limitations we have on tea and coffee, because I know we export a lot of coffee and a lot of tea, but it is in raw nature. So, but when it comes back to Kenya, it's value added. So it is very expensive to the common mwananchi. Today, if you want to buy coffee,
so yourselves cannot afford.
You know, it's too expensive, but that's why we're producing it. I think we need to look at value addition in a better way. I like the fact that he's looking at the Jua Kali, helping so much in the next, what do you call it, the 250,000 houses. He's looking at the Jua Kali, providing a lot of the equipment and a lot of the material they would require to do that, which is good because that creates opportunities, and it's a job creation for the Juakali and a market for them. But then again, on our product, on our produce, we must concentrate and say we want to do value addition. We must have control on our products. If it's coffee, can we actually say we will only export at least some level of value-added coffee, not just raw? You know, it's us producing, it's our produce. And if we fail that, then we have a problem. That is agriculture in nature. I think we have also failed on the issue of land not demarcation. When we subdivision.
Subdivisions, yeah.
You know, when we have a lot of farmers with small funds to produce, then economically it becomes very expensive to produce. So I think it's only wise that we start to actually mark out and demarcate areas of large-scale farming, because that is the only way we can benefit from it's called what? The economies of scale of production. If we fail to look at that, then we are not going to be anything in the near future. We must be able to produce and produce in larger numbers. And I think if we concentrate on agriculture, we'll have made a good impact. The other thing I've seen he's done, and it's a mark, is a plus, is the Hustler Fund. I know Kenya, we have a problem with operationalizing some of these issues or policies that brilliant ideas that we come up with.
Yes.
I can give you many ideas that many other countries have taken over from this country, and they've done well in their country. But we fail at some point to implement well. So if that fund is implemented well, it can really assist so many people. Because today, being a capitalistic state, we have issues with banks. And banks are really making it very difficult for investors.
We have a big problem when it comes to the
access to
capital.
Yeah, to capital. It is expensive. You know, the interest rates are very high. We have seen foreigners come to invest in this country simply because they are getting financed from their countries at a cheaper rate, and they come and invest here, and then we are lost. I'm not saying no to them. I'm just saying I think it's a high time we now look at such funds, such that they would help the common mwananchi to be able to come to some level, you know, because they have cheap capital. If there is no cheap capital, then we have a problem of how we actually develop from one level to the next.
to another level.
Yes. And I think that's a brilliant idea.
And also talking about it, engineer, because this is something that we are seeing so many youths are really looking forward to. Yeah, it is good to have such a fund. It's good to have such an initiative. But when we are looking now in terms of maybe what they will be able to do, what are the opportunities that this youth will have with this kind of fund? What are some of the preparations, the environmental preparations that maybe you think should actually be put into place? Because it's one thing to have such a fund, but then translating it actually to benefiting the millions of youth that are actually being targeted is also very different.
Mungicho, that's a very strong point you just brought up. Because even the capacity to consume the fund, for example, if today it's set up and it may be 100 billion or 200 billion fund, I don't know how big a fund it will be, but for example, even if it's 100 billion, even people have no capacity of, you know, accessing or capacity of utilizing the fund, then it will be obsolete again. So I think it will be very vital and it will be mandatory to start some sort of coaching or training to the youth or the target groups of these funds. Because if you're looking at a small businessman who would want to move from one level to another, you know, due to the capacity limitation, for example, a hawker might not necessarily be able to move to the next level of production due to a number of reasons. And this is not by any way, with due respect, is not to look down on them. It's just that their level of, you know, business acumen to be able to move from hawking to maybe production or to a bigger business than that.
Do you think capacity building training for them would?
That is mandatory.
Really
and again, we can also have categories. Because if your category is 1 million shillings, for example, your hawking business is 200,000 shillings, and that's what you're managing to do within a year. So maybe you can target that we grow you to maybe 500. So all that mapping must be done. So we are looking at this person who's doing this kind of business, and his income is this much per year. So we can only grow him to this level. We cannot exponentially grow him, you know. So once he achieves this level, then in the same fund can grow him to the next level, because now he's managing to be here. Because most of the time, the moment you take somebody from 200,000 to 1 million shillings a year, that person is in a position to grow himself without any other influence. Because he'll be able to, now he's learned how to pay the loans, he's learned how to get more people, more business, he's looking at his clientele, he knows how to get them. So, but at the moment, when he's just moving around the road and expecting somebody to magically just ask for some goods, then he's not growing. Tomorrow he'll be very hungry, you know. So I think that training and capacity building is mandatory. That should be part of that fund, such that they have target people, and they cannot target everyone in this country. It must start, you know, with a number of targeted people. For example, in Nakuru, let them map and say we have 2,000 hawkers, for example, if it's hawkers we are looking at. So let's target to grow 100 of them first. And let's grow 100 in each and every sub-county, or 100 in each and every county. So that in itself will give us an indication of a year, have they managed to pay. Because remember, we have the youth fund. I mean, a number of youth failed to pay back the loans. Why? Because
the youth fund, the Uwezo fund.
Uwezo fund.
Yes.
Why? Because we failed to train them on the basic principles of running a business. You're getting 50,000 not to share among yourself, but to regenerate. And make more money so that you pay back the 50 to help others. And then you can have your base of your own money that you've generated. That we failed, and that's how that Uwezo fund went down.
Oh, very critical. That is something that they would really want to look at, and it will really help in terms of actually helping the millions of youth who are actually waiting to see how this would really go to, or how this would actually be in a position to help them. Something else that, Engineer, maybe we can also talk about, and I think this is also something that most Kenyans will actually be wanting to see how it's going to be, and it is the issue of the implementation of the CBC. In terms of matters education, and from your position, because this is one of the things that the President said, although we really have quite a number of leaders who in his side had actually pointed to the fact that maybe the competence-based curriculum is actually not really of major significance, and maybe it has not been executed in the way that it should be. He has already pointed out that we'll bring up a task force to actually look at this particular issue. What do you think this, or how do you think this will affect the place of the CBC in the country?
No, I'm a parent, and I will need to put a rider on it. This is my personal opinion, and I could be wrong, or I could be right, but I strongly believe I'm right. I think CBC is a beautiful, brilliant idea. But we have failed on the implementation phase. Because what I see CBC trying to do, CBC is trying to borrow from the British curriculum, which is more practical in terms of what you're supposed to do with your kid, and they need to be hands-on and doing it themselves, you know. But what I'm seeing CBC do, I have a kid in school today. My son is in grade 4. And I find myself doing more of the work that he's being graded on, you know.
Yes.
I don't know if other parents would agree with me, but we tend to do the assignments. So today we are supposed to do this. It's us who are doing them, as compared to what 844 did. I'm an 844 student.
Is it the parents to do the assignment, or the parents to help the child?
Okay, what is to help when you give such a difficult task to a boy who can't handle it? You know, then again it becomes my assignment. I'm going to do it. Then again, you are judge. You're going to grade my son or my daughter based on what they deliver to school. So they can have no capacity.
What do you think?
So you are basically grading parents,
Yes.
which for me I think as an implementation it's failing. I think.
So
if I was asked,
the parents should be removed from it.
What? Sorry? Sorry?
The parents should be removed from it.
The problem
or
is
how
not the
should
parent.
they come in?
The implementation is the problem, because they want to quickly get a system running while we are not fully equipped for the system. For example, if I look at they want me to print a cow, or to get online
Yes.
and get a picture of a cow for my son to understand what a cow is, or to know something about cows, which is okay. It's a shortcut to getting there.
Yeah.
But if I look at schools that do this kind of program, they would have cows in school. They would have goats. They would have chicken. So my son will not be going online to look for a picture of a cow.
Yes. They would see it physically.
They would see it physically. They would understand how it's done. I mean, I remember when I went to school, I even went to a point of getting, they're called what? Majani
Yes.
for cows. It was something I did.
Yeah, very
manually.
natural. You'd get
and
it.
I totally understood it. Today, there are kids who cannot name animals.
Yeah.
Why? Simply because they don't really resonate with them. My son today, I go to the farm, they still run away from the sheep. Why? Because yes, we have a responsibility to ensure that they have the sheep and understand the sheep. But then again, it actually indicates that the CBC is failing indirectly. So we cannot learn of about a sheep on a piece of paper. Literally, it is supposed to be curriculum-based. You know, it's there. It's us seeing it. If it's milking a cow, we need to see the milking.
We need to
being
have
done.
an interaction
Whether
with
it's a machine doing it or
literal.
manually, we need to do it there. So since that is not there, it is only right that we acknowledge that we are not yet there. Then how do we go about it?
How do you go about it?
And I totally agree with the aspect of the task force being formed to look at these issues. Because we might, if we complained about substandard 844 graduates, then what kind of graduates will we be having with CBC?
Yeah.
Well, by the time you're going to high school, which is in class 8, is it class 7 or 8? Or grade 8? We are going to high school. It's called lower
Junior
high school,
secondary.
Junior secondary. By the time you're going there, you're totally not well equipped.
Right.
So you're going to university after that. We're going to have a problem. And I think that should be addressed. If I was asked and I had the time in this world, I would just revert to 844 system and now ensure the CBC issues that we wanted to implement are implemented under 844. Why am I saying that? In my time of schooling, we had very practical lessons that really meant so much to us. And they really get the lesson home. We would cook, literally.
Home science.
Home science. We would actually even get materials and make a dress, or we would do the knitting, manually. We would build a house. I remember we built a hut and we, thatched it.
Yes.
That was very practical. Today I can actually do that house by myself. Not necessarily that I have to go to a college or to a technical school to be shown how to do it. Yes, to perfection, then I need to go to a technical school. But if I'm just going to do a mud house somewhere, I can easily come up with it.
Exactly.
I will not rehearse anywhere. I'll just go ahead and just do it. If it's to do with implements for the farm, we would even do the spade. We would actually come up with, we would do the guitar, what do you call wandindi and stuff like that. And it is us doing it manually. We would come the mabati and stuff. Today, look at these kids trying to hold something to blunt metal to cut another mabati, and I'm not really seeing that happening. We have another influence, which is the digital world. But even with the digital world, I think we cannot compromise on the level of education that we give our kids. 844 was good. Whatever, I still don't agree with the detriments. They agreed.
And the engineer, sorry to cut you short, but looking at even maybe the reason why the CBC was brought was actually maybe to help a child to realize their potential as early as when they are young, so that even maybe when they grow, they can actually come to perfection in the areas that are very good at. And what does it do now that? And do you think there is a possibility that it could be scrapped if the task force was to recommend that? Would that actually be so detrimental to the country?
Well, not really. I think, there's nothing as good as actually getting it right. You see, if we've gotten it wrong, even if we refuse to amend it now, with fearing the repercussions, I think we are failing, and we are going to fail even more. I think if the task force today went ahead and checked well, I think they may not necessarily scrap it off, but I think they would actually change the mode of implementation. Maybe the time of implementing. What are things to be done? For example, I'm alluding more of agreeing with 844 system with what it did. The only issue we had with 844 system was that it actually encouraged competition. So students ended up cramming as opposed from understanding. So I think that is the core thing they should have addressed. First of all, how do we make sure that these kids are not cramming and they're not competing with each other? Because I remember, if I'm not number one, then I would have a problem. I would be beaten at home, the teacher would beat me, then tomorrow I'll actually be looking down on myself, I'm a failure, So we would have looked at what would we do to ensure that kids are not competing. Let's scrap it up from 844. Because the subjects that were there, we had art and craft, we had music, and these are areas that we want to see these kids growing. So we are not giving them music now, or maybe we are not giving them art and craft, we are not giving them geography, all these things were coming to ensure that I have a full understanding of where I am and as I grow, you know. So maybe we keep to that. All those subjects should be there. Then we remove these issues, cramming. How do we deal with it? That's what we need to discuss. Secondly, competition. How do we deal with it? If we want to bring boldness and, you know, that confidence in our kids, what do we do? What do we introduce? If we want to bring up leaders who make a difference in this country, because we need to train them at their young age, what do we need to train them in? Do we need to bring governorship in schools at that level? If we want to bring up good doctors, do we need to discuss health at that level? I mean, those are things we look at. But when you say you want CBC, I'm not really saying CBC is bad. I think we have a problem with the implementation. And our kids are not becoming exactly what we expect them to be, other than just CBC as a program just running. You know, I think if we want to achieve better, let's look at it, and I'm in full support of the task force. Let it look at that and how we. It is not the parent to do the assignment. It is the kid to do the assignment.
It's the kid to do
and
the
we must
assignment.
be able to do them.
Okay, one more thing that engineer wants us to discuss before we come to the end of our show for today. Now, I believe the country is also waiting now to hear and to see how the cabinet will look, and how it will look at. And considering that the president had actually promised that half the cabinet would actually go to women. The issue of professionalism, the issue of balancing between regions and communities in the country, the issue of rewarding loyalists. When you look at how the president or the president will actually be forming his cabinet, what are some of these issues? What kind of a team do you think he should come up with to help him to actually fulfill his agenda for the country, engineer?
The kind of team I think you'd come up with, I think you'd come up with very good professionals, people who are committed, because there is another problem we have in this country of people who actually get into office and they're not necessarily committed to what they're supposed to be doing in that office. I think the best and the most ideal position would be professionals who know what they want for this country, and again, people who believe in his vision. Now, that would be the most ideal. But over and above that, I think from the pointers given and the factors to look at, you've just talked about the regional balancing, the fact that he had promised 50% of the women, which is more to empower the women. And I'm in full agreement with those. I honestly don't see how he will fail in this, because he has shown from the word go. We have had doubts on his performance. We have had doubts on what kind of delivery he would give. Even now, people tend to still remain judgmental. And I strongly believe the kind of cabinet he'll come up with, he will shock many. He will shock many because
some of the names that maybe we'll be able to see there are names that we wouldn't have really expected.
I don't expect.
We wouldn't really have imagined.
I don't expect any names that are not bound to deliver, because remember another thing: we want professionals, but over and above that, the cabinet, most to speak, is not necessarily the workforce behind that office. The cabinet is the head of the team of that ministry. So this ministry, again, who are behind it? Just like we saw the Supreme Court. It is not the Supreme Court that sits and really listens to each and every and counts each and every vote to verify. There is a team behind them. So the stronger the team behind them, the better the judgment. So in this case, we will have people who will not necessarily be PhD holders or doctors for that matter. These are people who will be committed to the vision of His Excellency William Samoei Ruto.
Because, engineer, you'll agree with me that you'll begin to hear Kenyans maybe beginning to murmur, beginning to complain that we didn't have names from our side. How important is that vis-a-vis what you're talking about? If we could have even maybe 3 professionals or even maybe 5 of them, but they're coming from the same region, so long as they work for the country.
Haven't you talked about regional balancing? The reason why people complain about we didn't have our person there is because they feel as a region they were discriminated. So it is an act. We have 22 slots, or 23 now. That slot in itself, those 23 cannot satisfy 47 counties, but regions. Somehow there will be some balance in one way or another. And I really don't see any better opportunities as a country we've ever had than this one. Because 2017 is gone. Our failures, we marked them. And if there's anybody who's a good student of politics in this country, he's none other than His Excellency the President. He's a very good student. He knows what has gone wrong. If you look at what he has touched, it has gone very wrong. So he's touching it to correct it. So the balancing will come into play. I don't see, as I said, I'm not expecting to just hear of 22 PhD holders being named into cabinet. I'm actually looking at people who are committed, who understand the vision of His Excellency the President, and are committed to ensuring it is delivered. So that in itself will mean, if you're committed to that, in whatever ministry that you get, then you will build a team that will deliver that vision. And if he achieves that, his work is half done. Because then again, it will not be an issue of following up with individuals. Why is this not done? Why is it not done?
There's something that he had also talked about, engineer. We have like 2 minutes. That this time round, he will require his executive, the cabinet secretaries, to be going to Parliament, where they'll actually have an opportunity to be asked questions.
Which again shows his commitment in delivery. And that in itself says the cabinet that will come on board is a cabinet that will be able to respond to such issues. And you cannot respond to such issues if you're not hands-on. You cannot respond to such issues if you do not have a proper backup. So all that must be in place, and I believe we are going in the right direction. The other thing, maybe before we go, I would like us to maybe discuss, is he actually talked about the CRB. The CRB has really victimized a lot of people in this country and has made a lot of youth and a lot of, not just youth, Kenyans, not to access finances for, or loans or resources from these banks. And I think it is a high time that we looked at that policy. It was meant to actually ensure that people get, if you are good credit status, indicate you're good. Your status, if your credit status indicate you have high chances of paying a loan, then again you can get a better loan and even at a better interest. But this bank of today, without follow-up, nothing like that is happening. So all we are saying is we have enough people blacklisted, so banks are not lending, so people are not investing, people are not doing any business, so the economy is crumbling. So it is, I agree with him that he needs to look at that. We should not blacklist people. I mean,
and those who had already been blacklisted, should they now?
There are issues. I mean, if you blacklist, are you saying you're fed up with them, so they should die? I mean, that's not the way to go. I mean, these people are in business. They are blacklisted simply because they did not pay some 10,000 shillings or 20,000 shillings.
And most of them is because they were unable.
Yes, and they were unable because of whatever issues are coming. The policy is such that now you've said I cannot access more loan. If I accessed more loan, I could have managed maybe to grow that one and pay back this one. But you just blocked me out. So even any institution just goes there. If you go to any institution, they just tell you, give us your CRB status. It comes out red. Automatically, your business project is dead. So time has come for us to revise that. And that will help in his idea of reviving this economy. If people can invest and trade and actually be able to pay their loans, then the economy will start growing, as opposed to people waiting for jobs to be created.
One more thing that we have to talk about in 30 seconds, and it's a very, very big area that has been affecting us as a country. What do you think will be his commitment towards fighting graft?
Having come from that background of graft that really messed his government, he was in the Jubilee and the TNA government, I think he totally understands graft. And if we base everything here on God, I remember even the prayers that were conducted yesterday, all those prayers touched on corruption. But I didn't hear the Maasai, but I remember the Christian and the Muslim touched on the corruption. Yes. And I think if there's any calling, because he has told us it is godly and, yote yawezekana, through God, then he has no otherwise. That is one of the major calling he has, to ensure that he deals with corruption. Because he actually said the other day, wacha nimaliza na Biblia, nitadili na nani? Niwachie hao. He said that. So he is also already understanding his calling is directed to dealing with corruption. And he could be the person that will be able to deal with corruption in this country. I am giving every other hope on that he will be able to deal with. Otherwise, the economy he so plans to turn around will not turn around. Because listen, the reason why we are here, we are where we are, is corruption. So if, as the deputy president stated yesterday, they are inheriting an economy almost a dead economy. If that is anything to go by, then they have no reason to not 100% or radically address corruption so that this country can now grow economically. If you compare Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania in terms of unemployment, Kenya is the worst hit.
Okay.
From 2.9, from the statistics I saw yesterday, we have hit, in 5 years, we've hit 5.7. While Tanzania had 2.9, now they are doing 2.6.
2.6, yeah.
Uganda has just gone up, but still below 3. Kenya is in a bad state. If he does not address corruption,
Sure.
we will be where we are in 2027.
So the truth of the matter is that as a country we are affected by it.
Yes, 100%. It's not a secret.
And some of the actions that he might take will even affect the people who are very close to him.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's a decision he has to make.
Yes.
Do I watch and, as the country go down,
Right.
or do I deal with these issues? And then again, remember, these issues are directly touching everyone. His presidency, his government,
Yes.
and this country. If these people are to re-elect him in 2027, then we must see that he has delivered. I am really believing his 5 years
Yes.
will be the best presidency leadership we've ever had in this country.
Engineer Victor Ngatia, a political analyst and also a governance expert. Thank you so much for your
Asante sana.
contribution today on the topic or on the show, The Mid-Morning Pack. Thank you so much. We want to bring it to a close on that particular point. Our dear viewer, thank you so much also for participating and also for tuning in on the Mid-Morning Pack show right here on MBCI TV, and also for your contribution on our feedback platforms on behalf of the entire crew that made this show a success. We'll do it again next Wednesday at a time like this. My name is Mangi Chamola. Have yourself a blessed afternoon.